welcome to our Road to Legal Week 2024. So, who are you, and what's your position?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, Rocky. My name is Patrick Fuller. I am the Chief Strategist for the Legal Division at ALM, and been in the business now going on about 25 years.
Awesome. So, being at ALM, I'm sure you're going to have lots to tell us. But specifically, we wanted to hear, what session are you going to be speaking at?
Yeah, I am joined once again this year by my colleague and good friend Heather Nevitt, and we will be doing the State of the Industry opening keynote on, I believe, Wednesday morning is when we're doing that. And we do this every year. It's about 30 minutes of things that we see both from the law firm side and from the corporate legal department side. Heather is the editor-in-chief of Corporate Counsel at ALM, also the editor-in-chief of Global Leaders in Law, which is a in-house legal department membership community, and also works with Global Leaders or GLL Advisors, which is a version of that includes law firm leaders and GCs as well. And so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing. Heather is much more from the conversations that she has. I have a lot of conversations with firm leaders as well, but we also bring some data elements into it. And this year we're going to focus, it's impossible to have a conversation right now without talking about the impact of Gen AI. And so that's going to be a primary focus. But, what we're going to try and do, and what we started looking at, is going at it in a way that's going to look more at the ancillary impact that we think it's going to have and the indirect benefits that it's going to have. I think we've seen this all throughout legal, throughout at least my entire career, which goes back into the early or the late 90s. There are things that have come out that have had the direct impact. Let's look at e-discovery as a great example of this, right? E-discovery, we know what the direct impact of e-discovery is, but the indirect impact is what we're talking about right now, right? It's sort of set the stage. It was the first thing that came in that really we got buy-in from the lawyers into automation. We got buy-in from the lawyers into AI and to some of the different methodologies. And we started getting into efficiency. We started getting into these things that have been a little bit foreign to the legal profession. And, look, we all know legal is a little bit risk averse. It's a little bit change averse.
Understatement of the year.
And there's a lot that goes into that. But I think it's something that we've seen over time, that there's always going to be direct and indirect benefits. And what ends up happening more often than not is that the indirect benefits become the things that really sort of cements why something takes off. And as we look at Gen AI and we look at the different problems it can solve, yes, there's going to be things definitely with the practice of law and with the business of law, but there are other areas that I think we're going to be able to address. And I think one of the other areas that, some of the data that we're going to bring up, and I just published a piece on this, recently, is one of the things that we've seen over the last 10 years is that law firms, especially those outside of the top 50, top 75, top 100, have not done a great job of keeping pace with inflationary growth. So we've seen the numbers, we see the numbers that they produce. And if you get down even into rates, you start seeing some of the sort of the disconnect in between there. Rates are not keeping up largely with inflationary growth. The metrics reflect that quite a bit. So we're seeing growth to the naked eye, but when you actually dig into it, you adjust for inflation, the growth isn't what it seems. And so I think you look at another area where Gen AI can have a huge impact, and really it's the fourth or fifth industrial revolution at this point, but it's something that the promise of which provides scale. And that's something that the legal profession has never had, driven by the comp structure, driven by the fee engagement types with the billable hour. It's never really been conducive to scale. And I think now we're going to get into a period where we're really going to start to see the impact of scale in legal, which is going to completely change the competitive landscape in the market.
Sounds like an awesome session. Looking forward to hearing more about it at the show. Speaking about the show, any tips for someone who's never been to Legal Week before?
Yeah, that's a loaded question and a great question. So a couple of things I would always say. One is prepare for the unexpected from a weather perspective. I've been to, I can't tell you how many legal weeks and legal techs and every other different iteration of the name over the years. We've had weather in the 40s and the 50s, and we've had temperatures that have been below zero. So prepare, because you're going to be in New York. You're going to want to go out. You're going to want to do things. There's going to be events that all the vendors have great events at different places, usually close to the Hilton, in and around there. But there's going to be some walking that's going to be done. So prepare from a winter weather perspective. I mean, obviously, if you forget something, there's just a few places where you can possibly go buy something there in New York. But I think that's a big that's one of the big ones. The other thing too is you're going to end up finding places that are pretty consistent haunts. Faces and Names is one that there's always something going on. There's always something going on in Bridges Bar. And so you're going to find a lot of networking opportunities. And then the final thing I would tell you is get out into the vendor hall and the floor itself. You're going to get to go to some great sessions. You're going to hear some great takeaways, but there's going to be a lot of vendors that are there who put a lot into this. And the one thing I found over the years, both as a vendor and as a consultant, is that there is a lot of work that goes into preparing what they're bringing to LegalWeek. It's a great networking opportunity. It's a great way to learn about different technologies and different products that are coming down to market. So take advantage of the time to have so many different vendors and opportunities in front of you. Get onto the showroom, onto the vendor floor and the exhibit hall floor, and really sort of walk the hall and meet people.
Yep. Great pieces of advice. Well, Patrick, thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to seeing you there.
Thanks, Rocky. Appreciate it very much.